The market doesn't care about your dreams. It stands indifferent to your hopes, your fears, your need for validation. This truth is what separates those who merely trade from those who build fortunes. You see, most enter these digital battlegrounds carrying the wrong weapons: emotion, impatience, the desperate need for immediate results. They bring psychology to a math fight. I've watched thousands begin with that same fire in their eyes, that same conviction that they're different, special, the one who will defy the statistics. Yet the market reduces most to dust, not because they lack intelligence, but because they refuse to embrace the weight of consistency. The $10 trader who becomes the $1 million success isn't born in moments of brilliant insight or lucky breaks. No, they are forged in the quiet discipline of showing up when inspiration has abandoned them, in the patient accumulation of small victories while others chase euphoric wins. What separates them is painfully simple yet maddeningly difficult. They understand that wealth compounds in the same manner as their mindset, slowly, invisibly at first, then with unstoppable momentum. You feel the pull toward action right now, don't you? The urge to skip ahead to find the secret technique, the shortcut. This resistance you feel, this discomfort with patience, is precisely what stands between you and the fortune you seek. The millionaire trader knows something that the amateur refuses to accept. Success arrives not through intensity of desire but through consistency of execution. The market rewards emotional endurance above all else. Today we walk the narrow path between fear and greed, between impulsive action and paralyzed overthinking. This journey isn't about changing the market, it's about transforming your relationship with money, with time, and with your own psychology. The consistency that builds millions begins here in this moment of choice. Consider for a moment the typical journey of those who approach the market. They arrive with dreams of dollar signs dancing in their vision, hungry for the validation that comes with quick profits. They've heard stories of overnight millionaires, of fortunes made on single trades, of lives transformed in an instant. These narratives aren't just seductive, they're dangerous. I remember sitting across from a trader who had just lost everything. His eyes reflected not just financial ruin, but a deeper devastation, the collapse of identity. "I don't understand," he whispered. "I followed every rule when I was winning. Then I started losing and something changed in me." What changed wasn't the market, it was his relationship with money, how it triggered his deepest fears, his most primal emotions. This is the psychological warfare that the market wages on your mind long before it impacts your account. The consistent trader understands this battlefield. They recognize that confidence isn't built on winning streaks but on adherence to process. They see that discipline isn't just about following rules, it's about honoring commitments to yourself when every instinct screams for deviation. The path to becoming a disciplined trader begins with a fundamental shift. You must stop seeing trades as events and start seeing them as data points in a much longer game. The amateur obsesses over each trade, the professional obsesses over the system. One chases excitement, the other cultivates patience. Think about what happens in your body when you enter a trade: the surge of anticipation, the quickening of breath, the subtle tension across your shoulders. This physical response isn't random, it's your nervous system preparing for threat or reward. Your ancient brain cannot distinguish between a charging predator and a dropping stock price. Both trigger the same cascade of stress hormones, the same narrowing of perspective. The millionaire mindset is built on understanding and mastering this response. It's about training yourself to feel fear without being controlled by it, to experience greed without surrendering to it. This mastery doesn't come from reading books or watching videos. It comes from deliberate practice, from putting yourself in the arena day after day. The market operates on a paradox that frustrates most traders. The more desperately you need a certain outcome, the less likely you are to achieve it. This emotional attachment clouds judgment, distorts risk assessment, and undermines long-term results. I've worked with traders who started with just $10, but understood this principle deeply. They approached each trade not as a path to riches, but as a single repetition in a lifelong practice. They focused not on the money, but on the consistency of their execution. They celebrated not the size of wins, but the adherence to their rules. What these successful traders grasp is that compounding works in two dimensions, not just in your account balance, but in your psychological development. Each correct decision, regardless of outcome, strengthens the neural pathways of discipline. Each moment of restraint when others panic builds the emotional muscle of patience. The true secret isn't finding the perfect strategy, it's becoming the person who can execute any sound strategy with unwavering consistency. The market doesn't reward the brilliant nearly as reliably as it rewards the disciplined. As you progress on this path, you'll begin to notice something profound. The very emotions that once controlled you, fear, greed, impatience, begin to transform. They don't disappear, they evolve into sophisticated instruments of market perception. Fear becomes risk awareness. Greed becomes opportunity recognition. Impatience becomes decisive action. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. Like compounding interest, it builds slowly at first, almost imperceptibly. Then one day you'll face a market situation that would have broken you before, and you'll respond not with emotion but with calm, methodical execution. This moment, this subtle shift in identity is where your journey to millions truly begins. Let me tell you what happens in the mind of a trader who transforms $10 into $1 million. It isn't what you think. It isn't about sophisticated strategies or secret knowledge. It's about something far more fundamental, something that operates beneath the noise of the market. The millionaire trader has mastered the art of emotional symmetry. When others are swept away by euphoria, they remain centered. When others are paralyzed by fear, they see opportunity. This balance isn't natural. It's cultivated through thousands of deliberate decisions, each one reinforcing a single truth. The outcome of any single trade is irrelevant compared to the integrity of your process. I want you to understand what this means practically. The amateur trader enters the market seeking validation. They need the next trade to confirm their intelligence, their worth, their potential. This need creates a psychological dependency that makes consistent execution impossible. Every position becomes charged with meaning beyond profit and loss. It becomes a referendum on personal value. The professional, the one building towards millions, enters the market seeking information. They execute not to prove something, but to learn something. Every trade, whether winning or losing, generates data about their strategy, about market conditions, about their own psychological response. This orientation transforms failure from something to be avoided into something to be studied. Loss becomes not a wound to the ego, but a necessary cost of education. Think deeply about this distinction. It isn't semantic, it's existential. Your relationship to failure determines your capacity for success. The market will break you if you cannot transform your relationship with loss. I've worked with traders who couldn't look at their trading journal because the sight of red numbers triggered such intense shame. I've watched brilliant analysts freeze at crucial moments because they couldn't bear the possibility of being wrong. The market doesn't punish ignorance nearly as harshly as it punishes psychological fragility. The consistency that builds fortunes is forged in moments of maximum discomfort, when every instinct tells you to deviate from your rules, when fear clouds your vision and emotion drowns your discipline. These are the moments that separate those who merely trade from those who transform their financial reality. What does this discipline look like in practice? It means trading the same position size when you're on a winning streak and when you're in a drawdown. It means following your entry criteria with the same rigor on a Monday morning and a Friday afternoon. It means setting stops with mathematical precision rather than emotional compromise. The millionaire mindset requires you to do what is difficult precisely when it is most difficult to do it. Consider the nature of compounding, how it creates wealth not through dramatic surges but through relentless accumulation. An account growing at 2% monthly doesn't impress in the short term. The first year might generate returns that seem insignificant, but after 5 years, 10 years, the curve steepens. What began as a trickle becomes a flood. Your psychological development follows the same pattern, the daily practice of emotional regulation, of rules-based execution, of patient assessment. These create minimal visible change at first. Then suddenly you notice a fundamental shift. Market volatility that once triggered panic now generates calm curiosity. Losses that once prompted revenge trades now initiate methodical review. The signals that once seemed contradictory now form a coherent narrative. This is how $10 becomes $100, not through a single brilliant moment, but through the relentless application of proven principles, not through hoping, but through knowing, not through feeling, but through thinking. The trader who builds $1 million fortune understands that money flows towards psychological stability. Capital seeks the harbor of consistency. The market rewards not those who need success most desperately, but those who have developed the capacity to succeed most reliably. I need you to grasp something crucial about greed, how it distorts not just decision-making but perception itself. The greedy trader doesn't just make bad decisions, they see a different market entirely. Where the disciplined trader sees warning signs, the greedy trader sees confirmation. Where the patient trader sees the need for caution, the impulsive trader sees the need for action. This distortion isn't limited to greed. Fear creates its own alternative reality, its own selective filtering of information. The fearful trader doesn't just respond poorly to market conditions, they perceive market conditions that don't exist. They see conspiracies in random price action. They detect patterns in noise. They transform normal market behavior into personal attacks. The psychological mastery that builds millions requires you to recognize when your perception has been compromised by emotion. It demands the humility to step back when your mind has been captured by fear or greed. This self-awareness represents the highest form of trading intelligence. Many approach trading seeking excitement, validation, the rush of being right. These emotional payoffs sabotage long-term performance. The consistent trader finds satisfaction not in the thrill of victory but in the knowledge of correct execution. They measure themselves not by results but by adherence to process. This shift from outcome orientation to process orientation marks the beginning of professional development. The market operates with perfect indifference to your needs. It doesn't care about your mortgage payment, your retirement timeline, your desire for status. This indifference seems cruel until you recognize its profound gift. The market offers pure feedback, unclouded by sympathy or malice. It tells you exactly what works and what doesn't, if only you have the emotional stability to listen. Those who build fortunes from modest beginnings understand that rules aren't constraints, they're protection. They shield you from your worst impulses, from the psychological vulnerabilities that emerge under pressure. Your trading rules should be written in moments of clarity to govern your behavior in moments of confusion. They should be simple enough to follow when stress narrows your mental bandwidth, specific enough to eliminate discretion when emotion might cloud judgment. The confidence that sustains consistent execution doesn't come from believing you'll always win. It comes from knowing you can survive any loss. This resilience isn't built through positive thinking or affirmations. It's built through rigorous risk management, through position sizing that acknowledges the reality of uncertainty, through the emotional preparation for worst-case scenarios. I've seen traders transform $10 into significant wealth through nothing more extraordinary than showing up daily with disciplined intention. They trade through frustration. They trade through boredom, especially through boredom, that most underestimated of psychological challenges. They recognize that consistency feels mundane until it produces exceptional results. What they understand is that the mind craves drama, narrative, significance. It resists the methodical, the incremental, the patient accumulation that builds wealth. This resistance manifests as the urge to overtrade, to increase position size after wins, to move stops after entry, to take profits too early. Each of these impulses represents the mind's rebellion against consistency. The path to millions requires you to recognize these impulses not as intuition but as interference. It demands that you develop the capacity to feel emotion without acting from emotion, to notice fear without becoming fearful, to experience greed without becoming greedy. This separation between experiencing and becoming represents the central psychological skill of the consistent trader. It creates space between stimulus and response, between market action and your reaction. In this space lies the freedom to choose, to exercise discipline, to maintain rules, even when emotion screams for exception. The market will test this capacity relentlessly. It will present scenarios precisely calibrated to trigger your specific vulnerabilities. If you fear missing opportunities, it will create FOMO-inducing rallies after you've exited. If you fear losing gains, it will create stomach-dropping reversals after you've entered. These aren't coincidences or conspiracies. They're the statistical certainty of a complex system interacting with psychological bias. The consistent trader who builds wealth understands that these tests aren't personal, but they are purposeful. They reveal exactly what needs strengthening in your psychological framework. They expose with perfect precision the weak points in your emotional armor. This feedback, painful as it might be, contains the exact information you need to evolve. This is why the journey from $10 to millions isn't just financial, it's transformative. You cannot build exceptional wealth without becoming exceptional. The market demands your evolution. It requires you to develop capacities that most never approach: emotional regulation under extreme uncertainty, disciplined execution despite conflicting information, patient assessment when everything demands reaction. These capacities don't just build wealth, they build character. The psychological development that creates a successful trader creates a more integrated human being, someone capable of maintaining perspective, someone able to act from principle rather than impulse, someone who can pursue long-term vision despite short-term discomfort. This is the ultimate revelation. The consistency that builds your fortune simultaneously builds your character. The discipline that grows your account grows your capacity. The patience that allows compounding to work its financial magic allows wisdom to work its psychological transformation. The million-dollar trader isn't just someone with more money. They're someone who has fundamentally altered their relationship with money, with time, with themselves. They've transcended the need for immediate gratification, the hunger for constant validation, the fear of missing single opportunities. They play a different game entirely, the infinite game of continuous improvement, of sustained excellence, of principled growth. This is the mindset available to anyone with the courage to choose consistency over excitement, discipline over impulse, process over outcome. It begins not with some monumental shift, but with the next trade, the next decision, the next moment of choosing what is right over what is easy. The truth about trading success lives in a quiet place most never visit. It resides not in the frenetic energy of the market open, not in the exhilaration of a winning streak, not even in the satisfaction of a correctly predicted move. It lives in the space between trades, in the patient discipline of waiting for precise conditions, in the calm confidence of knowing your edge remains regardless of recent results. I've watched traders at all levels of achievement, from the struggling beginner to the established millionaire. The difference between them isn't intelligence. It isn't access to information or technology. It's their relationship with time. The amateur demands immediate results. The professional embraces delayed gratification. One trades for today, the other builds for decades. This long-term perspective changes everything. It transforms how you evaluate opportunities, how you respond to losses, how you measure progress. When your timeline extends beyond weeks and months into years and decades, the daily fluctuations of your account balance lose their emotional charge. Individual trades become mere data points in a much larger progression. Think about the mathematical reality of consistent growth. A strategy that generates just 3% monthly, preserving capital during difficult periods, advancing modestly during favorable ones, compounds into life-changing wealth over sufficient time. This modest, sustainable approach lacks the drama of aggressive methods, but it possesses something far more valuable: survivability. Most traders fail not because they can't find profitable strategies, but because they can't sustain themselves through the inevitable periods of difficulty. Their approach lacks the psychological sustainability that allows compound growth to work its magic. They seek intensity rather than consistency, excitement rather than excellence. The mindset that builds millions embraces constraints as creative forces. It understands that freedom emerges from discipline, that rules enable rather than restrict. The trader who maintains strict risk parameters isn't limiting their upside, they're ensuring their survival. The trader who follows methodical entry criteria isn't missing opportunities, they're preserving mental capital for optimal decisions. As you move forward from this moment, recognize that the greatest obstacle to your trading success isn't the market, it's the gap between what you know and what you do. This gap exists for everyone. The consistent trader doesn't eliminate it, they minimize it through deliberate practice and unflinching self-awareness. Your emotions will never cease sending signals. Fear will arise when capital is at risk. Greed will whisper when opportunities appear abundant. These psychological responses aren't weaknesses to be eliminated, but data to be interpreted. They become problematic only when they dictate action rather than inform analysis. The journey from $10 to millions unfolds one decision at a time. Each choice to follow your rules when emotion demands deviation. Each commitment to proper position sizing when confidence tempts excess. Each acceptance of a loss when pride urges denial. These moments compound just as surely as capital compounds, building not just wealth but character. Remember that consistency in trading reflects consistency in thinking. The trader who executes with discipline typically lives with discipline. They bring the same methodical approach to health, relationships, personal development. This integrated consistency creates a foundation of stability from which financial success naturally emerges. The market offers something beyond monetary reward. It offers a perfect mirror reflecting with uncompromising clarity your relationship with uncertainty, with risk, with delayed gratification. This mirror reveals the gap between who you are and who you must become to achieve the results you seek. Embracing this feedback represents the highest form of trading wisdom. In those quiet moments before you place your next trade, remember this. The consistency that seems mundane contains the seed of exceptional results. The patience that feels uncomfortable enables compounding growth. The rules that appear restrictive provide the framework for lasting success. The millionaire trader wasn't born different. They were forged through thousands of moments of choosing discipline over impulse, process over outcome, long-term vision over immediate gratification. This same potential lives within you, awaiting activation through consistent action. Begin where you are, with whatever capital you possess, financial, psychological, educational. The amount matters less than the approach. The mindset that transforms $10 into $100 will transform $100 into $1,000 and eventually 1,000. The path opens before you now, defined not by dramatic gestures but by quiet by the gradual alignment of knowledge, emotion, and behavior. This is how fortunes are built. This is how traders become millionaires. This is how you transform not just your account balance but yourself.